A little bit of a week, but I am here. So I had a little bit of technical difficulties. I had brought my webcam with me when I was in Edmonton, so I had to hook up all those cords. I was assuming I would get home earlier tonight, but I was at a school and there was a lot of questions, which I love. I love answering questions to the best of my ability. So it was a gift. I'm here now, and so I'm very thankful and humbled to have have had the week that I've had, to have been able to share in a good way with many different organizations and schools and in Edmonton and here. And so I just, of course, wanted to begin by acknowledging the land upon which we stand, because it's important. It's important to create that space, to create that connection, to understand and honor where we are. And so I honor the Blackfoot, or the Nitstapi, of Siksika, Kainai, and Bagani. I honor the Sarsi Dene from Tsutsuna, and the Stony Nakota from Morley, which includes Chiniki, Bearspaw, and West Seyfert. We're also walking in the footsteps of Métis Region 3, so I proudly wear my Métis sash to act as that bridge between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. It's important to just acknowledge that land and acknowledge our place and our responsibility within it. I am Cree and Anishinaabe and Métis. I'm from Muskeg Lake Cree Nation, and I had the amazing pleasure of drumming and singing over the weekend with some of my family from my reserve, and it was just so amazing to be able to connect with them and to share what I've been doing here and the work that I've been doing. It's a gift. But I just honor the land upon which I stand now, and honor the relationship that I've had to it and to the people, and really that responsibility that we have to work together to make that world a better place for all of our future generation. And so, to welcome everyone into the circle today, I love to start with the Cree welcome song. Traditionally, when we sing songs, we sing in rounds of 4 to honor the 4 directions of the medicine wheel. And this song is a little bit different. We sing it in rounds of 3, and that's to keep the circle open and welcoming so everyone completes the circle today. Because in a circle, we're all connected. There's no beginning, there's no end, no one is greater or less than anyone else in the circle, just like in the hoop of life. So it teaches us to honor each other for those differences. Because if everybody was exactly the same, then the world would be incredibly boring and nothing would ever get done. And so this song is from the Natahau family. I honor that family and many families like the Natahau family for keeping these songs and these stories and these traditions alive in spite of the incredible odds and the incredible amount of hardship that we've had to endure to be able to keep those teachings alive. So I'm very, very thankful and humbled to be in the time that I'm in now, that I can share those teachings. Miyasin is really just exemplifies that. It teaches us to come into the circle without honor, but to be open to learn from each other, not to compare ourselves to others, but to find those places of commonality, those places of connection, and those places of understanding. And so Miyasin, which as the Cree welcome song, welcomes in all of our ancestors, and it doesn't just mean welcome, it also means beautiful. Stand up to Miyasin, Miyasin, Asemina, Asemina, Epe Takote, Wagomagan, Hota, Homa, Ki, Eskino, Miyasin, Miyasin, Asemina, Asemina, Epe Takote, Wagomagan, Hota, Homa, Itaskino, Miyasin, Miyasin, Asemina, Asemina, Epe kote wagomagan ota oma Iasino. Hi, and welcome to the circle today. Today I think I wanted to share the story of the Dreamcatcher because I don't think I've really shared it very often. And it's such a beautiful story, and it's really been in my heart and in my mind. Also, I wanted to share the story of spring because it is spring, and I'm really, really thankful for the spring coming back and for that renewal and rejuvenation and the sun coming back, because I get a little sad in the winter. It's seasonal affective disorder. Get it? A little sad. But it's such a beautiful time because it's when the winds start to come back. It's when the warmth starts to come back. So seeds start to grow. We get to plant those seeds, both those physical seeds, but those also metaphorical seeds for the year ahead. And it's also when we see those things that we had cultivated before winter, and those things that we had cultivated over winter start to actually bloom, come to fruition. And so, it's just a beautiful gift to be in the time we're in now. And so the story that I'm going to share with you is the story of the Dreamcatcher. And there's many, many different stories about the Dreamcatcher. This is the one that I know. And so it is an Anishinaabe as well as a Lakota story. So there's some Anishinaabe words, there's some Lakota words. But the story comes from a long, 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 long time ago, when there were many, many nations, but there wasn't really any teachings for the nations. There wasn't really a lot of ceremony. There was a few, but not a lot. And there was an Anishinaabe tribe, and they were starving. The reason that they were starving was because of one little boy. So they weren't sleeping either. So he would have the most vicious, horrible nightmares. They were so bad that he would cry and scream throughout the entire night. So not only would his Kukum, who was raising him, his Nokomis, who was raising him, she wasn't getting any sleep, but no one else was getting any sleep either. And his screams were so loud, his echoes were so loud, that not only was it keeping him awake, but it was scaring away animals for miles and miles and miles around, because there was so much fear in these cries from him. They thought, oh my gosh, if something is that scary, we're going to get out of town. And so many of the animals just drifted further and further apart. And no matter where the nation moved, no matter where the tribe moved, the cries and the screams would just chase off the animals for miles and miles and just echo for miles. And so that wasn't bad enough, but to add insult to injury, even plants need to rest. Even plants are very sensitive to sound. And so many of the plants that were above ground started to shrivel and to die and not to produce fruit, because they weren't getting any rest either at night. And the only plants that were able to feed the people were roots, things like carrots, beets, and potatoes, and tubers, and underground roots. And yeah, I mean, they sustain you, but they're not forever. And so people were getting pretty cranky. They were rationing their food. So not only were they hungry, they're getting pretty hangry. Plus, nobody was sleeping. So it was just not the best vibe in this village. And so the grandmother, the Nokomis, would take her grandson walking every day. And they would go further and further and further out. And the more tired she got, she was trying to tire him out. So maybe, just maybe, he would have a good rest. He would have a good sleep. And he would not be plagued with these nightmares. And so she would take him wandering. And they had gone really, really far one day. They came home. You tuck him into bed. All right. And she tucked him into bed, and he started to slowly fall asleep. Then he was crying and screaming, and woke himself up and woke everyone else up. So every time he would fall asleep, he would be screaming. And so his Nokomis would take him every day. And it was just beyond why he would not sleep, why he wouldn't have a restful sleep. And so one day, she took an unfamiliar path. Like, well, let's try somewhere different. Maybe there's a different path, And so she continued to walk with him. She walked out further and further and further until they came into the sun clearing that she'd never seen. This was beautiful. It was the morning. This clearing was just gorgeous. There was dew on much of the leaves that was everything like it was glittering. And in the corner was a huge spider's web. All the dew hanging in the spider's web looked like suspended there. And there was a huge jeweled spider in the center of the web. And the little boy, who was quite hangry, he picked up his moccasin and he went to squish the spider. And his Nokoma stopped him and she said, "No, no, no, grandson. That spider is sacred. Look, she is jeweled. She has so much to give us. She protects us from those bugs that would do us harm. So we need to honor her and her life. Thank you, Nokoma, for saving my life." And Nokoma said, "Ah, it's a talking spider." No, just kidding. That's not what she said. She said, "Well, you're so welcome, Ektome. Of course." And Ektome, the spider, said, "Nokomis, because you've saved my life, I will give a gift to your nation. Over the next 4 days, I will have many instructions for you. Some might make sense, some might not. It is done. But we'll create something together. Together we will have beautiful learnings to give back to you. And it will help you many, many generations." And so Nokomis was very, very thankful for the spider. She said, "You thank to Ektome. What can I do? What can I do?" And so the spider explained that tonight there would be a very incredible storm. And the storm would have hail and wind and crazy amounts of rain. But also within that storm, in the destruction of the storm, there was going to be new opportunities and new life. So she said, "Tomorrow morning when you come and see me, you will find that the ground has been littered. So much willow that has fallen from the trees in the storm in the night. Gather that willow, bring it back." So Nokomis said thank you to Ektome for the gift that she was going to be. And home with her grandson. They got home and he was exhausted because they had walked quite a ways. So she tucked him into bed, gave him a kiss, and he started to fall asleep. He screamed and screamed and screamed and cried and cried and cried and kept everyone in the village awake. And so she said, "Oh my goodness, grandson." But she packed him up the next morning and she remembered what Ektome said. And on their path, as they walked, they found all of these beautiful willow branches that had been knocked from the tree by the storm at night. And so as they gathered all of those willow branches, they brought them back to it. They said, "Now I will teach you how to weave a special." And so together they wove a circle. She explained that this circle is never ending. It's never breaking. It represents the hoop of life, the circle of life that connects each and every one. Within that circle, we are all equal. No one is greater or less than anyone else at that circle. Our companions here on this earth, the crawlers, the flyers, the swimmers, four-legged, all of the creatures who breathe in our life, those are all in the circle. We are not above or below. We are part of them. This teaching you must bring back to you. Grandmother was so thankful. Nokomis was so thankful. "Thank you for this beautiful teaching. I will share it with my nation." Ektome said to her, "Nokomis, tomorrow, you again, but you will take many trails or to come and see me, come and visit. You will walk along the river. You will walk along the ocean. You will walk through forest paths all around to explore the world. On your path, you will find beautiful things. You will find rocks, gems, shells, and stones, things that catch your eye, just so beautiful. When you pick these things up, lay a little bit of tobacco down." So Ektome gave tobacco to grandmother, the Nokomis, and said, "All right, your journey will be long, but I will see you." So Nokomis took her grandson, tucked him into bed, and tried to share all of the stories that she remembered with the circle. how we are all connected. How all life is just like our sun, all of the planets. And so she gave her grandson a kiss. She tucked him. She really hoped, maybe, because they'd walked so far today, he would sleep. So he started to doze. And then he screamed and screamed and screamed and cried and cried and cried and kept everyone awake. And so she, the next morning, packed her grandson up, and they began again on a little bit of a longer journey. As they walked down a forest path, on the forest floor, where these beautiful gems, stones, caught the light in such a beautiful way. And Nokomis remembered what the spider had said, so she began laying tobacco before she picked up each of the stones. Every time she picked up a stone, she remembered a person on her journey, or an experience that she'd had, some stories that were so funny, some stories that taught her so much about who she was. She remembered her grandparents, she remembered her and father, she remembered her too. She remembered. And as she was picking up the stone, she, overcome by such joy, and she continued to walk along. And as she started to walk along the riverbed, she saw more beautiful, polished stones and rocks and gems that she would have missed had she not been looking down and seeing the beauty that was all around her. She laid more tobacco down, picked up more of those beauties, and she continued to walk to the ocean. As she walked along the ocean, her and her grandson took off their shoes, their moccasins, and they continued to walk through the sand. As she looked closely, she saw beautiful shells, beautiful flattened stone. Some were crisp and clear and beautiful and green. Some were the color of the ocean. The shells just stunning. She could see rainbows in them. She, of course, laid tobacco down, pick up rocks, shells, whichever ones jumped out at her, and called to her. And as she did, she remembered those people in her life, and she continued along her path. Then by the time she had continued through the forest, she found more rocks and gems. Eventually, she made her way back to Akome, who was in the clearing. She brought all of these beautiful gems and rocks and stones that she had laid tobacco down. She said, Akome, every time I would pick up a stone, I would remember someone, or I would remember an experience that I had throughout my life. And Akome explained, these are gifts. Those teeny tiny stones are whispers of our ancestors. They are whispers of here with that time and moment. Sometimes we forget those memories. We need to be remembered. When we look down at the earth, those gems and rocks and stones, shells, they will bring us back to what those experiences have taught us. Oh, and it was such a beautiful village. And then Spider, Akome, gave her a very, very, very long strand of silk and began to show Nokomis how to weave as a spider's web does. She explained that we are a single strand in the web of life, but we touch so many people. We have so many experiences that shape and mold us, and even without one of those experiences, we wouldn't be the same. These experiences are gifts. So as they were weaving, Nokomis began to attach those rocks, gems, shells into the webbing, into the weaving. She noticed that it was going in a spiral. I explained, spiral is our path of we will go into the core, into the center, until we learn all that we can, all that we are meant to in this life. We'll continue on. Strand. When we make beautiful weaving, we always begin. It's like our belly button, and just the final life. Nokomis was so overwhelmed with beauty for all of these teachings. And she said, thank you, Akome, for these teachings. I will make sure that I share it with everyone in my church. Akome explained, tomorrow, Nokomis, you will not see me, but you will see 3 of my friends that have beautiful gifts for you, beautiful teachings for you. So tomorrow, With the rising sun, means you have to head to greet the rising sun. And one of my friends will meet you there. As the sun begins to rise higher in the sky, you will head to the south, and there you will meet another one of my friends who will be sure to share with you. Maybe bring a little bit of extra snack, just in. And then, in the evening, as the sun is beginning to set, head west. And as you do, Grandmother Moon will rise. There will be another best friend who will share with you. Nokomis was very, very thankful, and she packed up her grandson and took. It was such a long walk and such a long day. She knew that just maybe tonight her grandson would sleep. He would have a great sleep. So she tucked him into bed, and he was exhausted. The moment his head hit the pillow, he fell fast asleep. And then he screamed and screamed and screamed and cried and cried and cried and had the most horrible nightmares. She didn't know what to do. But next day, she packed up her grandson. She remembered the words of Ektome. She continued on her path to greet the rising sun and left quite early in the morning. And her grandson, and they headed. As the sun was beginning to rise, they heard faint, and as they saw a beautiful hawk spinning above, it came down, popped right in front of Nokomis, and said, "Nokomis, it is so good to see you. I have so many teachings to share with you. Teachings of fire, teachings of laughter, and children's medicine. We have so many wonderful things to explore and share together." And so, sat, it seemed like hours, and the hawk explained so many teachings about about connection, about learning, about our childhood, about mind, power of fire, and so many teachings about grandfather son, as well as about fire keeping. I was so thankful for these beautiful teachings. As the hawk was taking off, dropped a single feather, spun as his gift to Nokomis. Caught the feather, held it to her, so thankful, humble for the gift. And she continued that. And as she continued along, her and her grandson were getting a little hungry. And so they saw a beautiful tree, which was giving just enough shade for them to probably have a good lunch. And so they laid out their blanket. Of course, they with them, and they sat and they began to eat lunch together. Up in the tree, they heard laughter. And they looked around. They were wondering who was laughing. And again they heard. And then Nokomis looked up and she saw. She remembered she had brought extra food for this friend. And she said, Raven, please come and join us for lunch. And the raven, of course, was always up for a good meal, and so was snacking along with Nokomis and her grandson. And the raven explained, "Oh, Nokomis, I knew you were coming. Tomi told me all about you and about how selfless you are and the gifts that we get to give to your nation. It is so exciting. And so, Nokomis, I have so many things to share with you. Teachings and stories of the earth and of animals, of our connection to each other, to all of our sacred medicine." So Nokomis listened with such joy in her heart for all of the medicines and stories of the animals that shared with her. And after the raven was done, of course, finished whatever was left over after the meal. "Thank you, Nokomis. Please make sure you remember me, all of the stories that I will share now on." As he took off, dropped a single feather, grabbed that feather, held it to her heart, so thankful for the beautiful gift, all of the teachings of the earth, of coming of age ceremonies, of our connection to our physical being and our physical body, of all of the animals and all of the sacred men. She remembered them and held them in her heart, along with that beautiful. And she continued on her path. She didn't leave anything behind, except for the snacks for the raven. And as she continued on her path, it started to get later and later and later in the day. She yawned. It was getting quite late. But grandmother started rising in the as grandfather's sun was setting, and as she did, earth seemed to glow beautiful white and blue light as she continued along her path, or just clearing in the forest. Then she heard a soft woo woo woo. She saw big, beautiful golden eyes staring down at her. She came below it, and as she dipped down into the tree, she realized. And the owl said, Nokomis, I have been waiting for you, waiting so long. I'm here to share so many wonderful teachings with you. Teachings of water keeping, water bearing, teachings of the women's medicine, teachings of the moon ceremony, so much more. So listened for what seemed like and honored all of the emotions she was feeling as the owl told her, sacred. Our tears are sacred. She even taught tear ceremony. Nokomis listened. Knew her grandson was getting quite tired after the owl was sharing. Nokomis thanked that beautiful owl for sharing so many teachings. And then as the owl was soaring away, spun, Nokomis grabbed, held it to her heart along with all of those teachings she had shared, and continued. By the time they got home, it was very, very. She was hoping that her grandson was actually going to sleep. So, tucked him into fall asleep. And then he screamed and screamed and screamed and cried and cried and cried and kept everyone in the village up for the rest of the evening. And so the next morning, Nokomis, exhausted, but she remembered Ektome's words. She knew she had to pack up her grandson, start heading north. Direct. And as she did, and crisper, she saw these beautiful mountains. She looked up into the crisp blue sky. Fine back. He went up backward. Swerve, sir, sir, sir. Oh! Down. Eagle lit. She said, Eagle said, Nokomis. I'm so thankful. I have so many beautiful ceremonies to share with you, many beautiful teachings to share with you, and beautiful. Winter's about to go. Beautiful gifts that I'd like to share with your nation. Take it as time. And so he explained all of the teachings of spirit ceremony. He explained all of the teachings of the shaking tangerine repeat ceremony. All of the teachings of our elders and those ceremonies. Gifted her, as well as many other ceremonies. Then, when that eagle was done, plucked a single feather off and gifted it to Nokomis. Look, that for some reason she was overwhelmed. She began to sob, say thank you to the eagle. She held that beautiful feather to her. So thankful and humbled for all of the teachings that she had. And the eagle said, now you must go and see Ektome. This is the final phase of your path. And so the eagle soared off, disappearing into the sky. Higher, higher. So thankful, took all of those feathers with her back to see Ektome. And when she arrived, Ektome was so happy to see her. Oh, Nokomis, I'm so glad you met with all of my friends and you have so much wonderful. We will come gift together. Ektome showed Nokomis how to hang each direction. Together they first hung a hawk feather in the east. And as she did, she remembered all of those beautiful teachings that were connected to them. Then she showed her how to tie that raven's feather in the south to ground, so to honor the teachings of the earth. Then she tied beautiful owl feather to honor the teachings of Mother Moon, Grandmother Moon, and all of then last feather she was about, well, Nokomis was about to told me, said, no, that feather is your feather. Whenever we are gifted a feather of accomplishment, it means we have done something good for our nation. So that feather is for you. You have created, you've also brought back to you. She was so, so thankful. Cried. Thank helping her to learn these things, eating this beautiful. She held it up and she, what is it? Like Tome explained, this not only teachings of all of the Anishinaabe ceremonies, but also a very special tool. Protection, guidance, to come. So Nokomis thanked and continued on her. She remembered the wise words. She knew this Dreamcatcher would hopefully catch her grandson. And so by the time they got back to them, everyone seemed very, very hungry. They feasted together as best they could on potatoes and carrots. But over dinner, Nokomis shared all of the teachings she had learned. She had passed forward all of the different ceremonies that she had learned from the hawk, raven, and the owl, and the eagle to the people who were meant to carry those ceremonies forward. And she was so thankful and humble. All of the gifts. Everyone, even though they didn't have much food, felt were full of wisdom, full of humility, love and compassion and kindness. They were full of teachings that were experienced. They knew sleep well this evening, as long as they could cry. And so Nokomis took her grandson, put him into bed. Before he fell asleep, she hung that beautiful dream she had created over his head. She remembered wise words of that when we look at Dreamcatcher, all of those beautiful webbings, all of those gem rocks and spells, as they are so beautiful, negative dream, bad spirit, or grief, so they will get entangled in the web like a fly caught in a. All of those good dreams will go through the web, drip down to the dream on the soles and the backs of those. And any of those good dreams, good intent, don't make a dreamer that be taken on the feathers and wings of those birds up to create to do. So she gave her grandson a kiss. Slept, and he slept more soundly than I've ever seen in his life. As he slept, everyone else in the village slept. This was the first time they had slept in. So, there's a stillness and a silence in them never been experienced. All the people slept, and they had a kind of silence as they slept. It was a silence of spirit, a fulfillment of learning these ceremonies and teaching. This silence seemed to permeate every aspect of creation. All of the animals who had run away because of that really loud screaming, they had never heard this kind of stillness, this kind of silence before. So they crept closer, closer, closer in the village, trying to understand what stillness and silence was. All of those plants that had shriveled up and died, there was just no way they could get any. Spread and unfurled. Never heard this kind of silence or felt this kind of stillness before. And as they did, they began to bloom and move forward, crouching into the village so they could kind of understand stillness was. So when everyone woke up out of their an abundance. An abundance of animals, an abundance of fruit and vegetables, and so many beautiful things. So much food. They were all so thankful. They remembered the teachings of the. They only took what they needed. They gave thanks to everything that they remembered to leave the root ground, with the exception of carrot and the occasional potato. But they were so thankful for this abundance. Only took. They had a huge feast that evening. They all celebrated the learnings and teachings that they had been gifted by Aktome, all of her. Still to this day, we use that as a protection and reminder of the teachings that we all carry around. So that, the Dreamcatcher. And I know it's quite a long story, but I am going to share a song with it. So, just share an Anishinaabe song. So probably the Thunderbird song. And because the Thunderbird really teaches us about that destiny. And sometimes we have those urges to just go in a specific place. So maybe one day you're driving and you're like, I should pull over. And then you do, and there's an accident right in front of you. It's trusting your intuition, just like that path that we need to trust to always move. Our Thunderbird is never ever that's our and so it might be something very, very simple, like, I should just change lane. Just tear through that. Or something bigger, like, I'm going to take a different way to go home. Then all of a sudden, you see somebody you haven't seen in. And possibly even, I know that with me, it happens a lot, where I just randomly be like, I feel the need to go out and go shopping today. And so, even if I only need like a couple of things from Safeway, I'll just be like, oh, I should go now. And then I go, and then I bump into something. So it's really just trusting the intuition that you have, and because it will lead you on that. This is the Thunderbird song. It also teaches us that don't pay attention to our intuition, that Thunderbird eventually is going to get frustrated with us and kick butt. Exactly what happened with my accident a decade ago. But it put me on the path that I'm on now, so I'm very, very thankful and humbled. This is the Thunderbird song. So the next song I wanted to share, it's been in my head. I'm going to share the Mother song. So the Mother song is, I believe it's Anishinaabe actually. But I had learned it from a friend of mine who actually did a song exchange. I taught her a song and then she taught me. I love doing that. Remember those moments together, share that energy so that you move forward with it. And so Mother song, and it teaches us to really honor that journey that a parent, where you want to protect your child as much as possible. And so in it, out and the child comes back. In our communities, it's difficult to be able to raise children right, because our children were taken from us. Or with residential school 2.0, which is the foster care. But we're starting to regain that traction. We're purpose itself, honor who they are and the blood that runs. That's all we best for our ability. Give the way. So this all the way through the other version that makes awesome. Water. I think I'm going to share the water song, just because it's been in my head. So I love sharing it with kids, because they have fun in spite of themselves, especially teenagers. So I was working at a couple of high schools today, and most of them were like, and they didn't really want to sing, and they were kind of like, whatever, and they were drumming because it's cool. But whenever I sing this song, whenever I teach them this song, when we start to go faster and faster, they just love it. It just opens up our hearts and our minds, and it teaches us to really honor the water and that laughter and the tears as well. but to really honor our emotions. So, oh, faster. Ishita duya duya duya. Ishita duya duya day. 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 Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey. Ishita duya duya duya. Ishita duya duya day. 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 Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey. Ishita duya duya duya. Ishita duya duya day. 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 Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishita duya duya duya. Ishita duya duya day. 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 Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya, hey ya. Ishatanaya, hey ya. Ishita duya duya duya. Ishita duya duya day. Ishita duya duya duya. Ishita duya duya day. Ishita duya duya. Ishita duya duya day. Ishita duya duya duya. Ishita duya duya day. Water song. So I'm going to share a couple more songs. I might end it early. I'm going to share the laughing song. Just because it's been in my head. And I think the spring, hear all the birds getting frisky, and it just makes you want to laugh. You know, all of the animals just kind of getting down to business. I want to giggle. And so this is the laugh. Also another one of the ones where you use the whole drum, which I love. This is the laughing song. Hey hi yo, hey hi I'm going to leave you with one final song, which is, of course, the traveling song that I learned from my elder Sharon Prue Turner, and then again came back to me passing from my friends Amanda and Ashley. The last one was by the Four Wind Singers out of Edmonton. So I hope everyone has a beautiful week ahead. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you who have, please feel free to share. I always say whatever's meant to be will be, so even flip through and whatever's meant for you, you'll find them. And so this is a traveling song. Hi, everyone. Shimigwish, thank you again for joining me, and I will see you next Tuesday if I don't see you beforehand. Again, thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Oh, also, I will be